Harley-Davidson just reported a $29 million operating loss for its motorcycle division, not a dip in profits, an actual loss. From the company that for over a century has been the loudest, most recognizable symbol of American freedom on two wheels. This is Harley-Davidson. For 122 years, the sound of its engine has meant something no marketing campaign ever needed to explain. A brand that survived the Great Depression, 2 world wars, and a near bankruptcy in the 1980s. But today, that same brand is reporting operating losses, watching its CEO walk out the door, and facing a customer base that is literally aging out of existence. How did this happen? How did the most iconic motorcycle brand in history end up here? The peak that hid the problem. To understand where Harley-Davidson is today, you have to understand what the brand was built on, and how long it has been quietly eroding. For most of its modern history, Harley-Davidson did not just sell motorcycles, it sold an identity. The rumble of a V-twin engine, the chrome and leather, the open road. These were not product features. They were a lifestyle that millions of Americans paid a premium to belong to. In the 1980s, when Japanese manufacturers were threatening to destroy the company entirely, Harley survived not because it out-engineered Honda or Kawasaki, but because its customers were loyal in a way that transcended rational consumer behavior. They did not just buy Harley motorcycles. They tattooed the logo on their skin. That loyalty made Harley one of the most powerful brand assets in American manufacturing. It also masked a structural problem that was building for decades. In 1985, the average age of a Harley owner was 27. By 2021, that number had climbed to 50. The brand that once symbolized youthful rebellion had become the preferred purchase of baby boomers approaching retirement. And while boomers were still buying, nobody was asking the obvious question loudly enough. What happens when they stop? The numbers that could not be explained away. In 2024, the question stopped being theoretical. Full-year global motorcycle shipments fell 17% to just 148,862 bikes. Operating income dropped 47% to $417 million. Revenue was down 11%, but the fourth quarter told the real story. In Q4 2024 alone, motorcycle revenue collapsed 60% compared to the same quarter in 2023. Unit sales fell 53%. Harley shipped approximately 27,500 motorcycles in Q4 2024, down from 45,300 in Q4 2023. In North America, its home market sales fell 13% in that single quarter. CEO Jochen Seitz blamed cyclical headwinds for discretionary products and the high interest rate environment affecting consumer confidence. Both things were true. Neither was the whole story. Then 2025 arrived and things got worse. In Q1 2025, global retail sales fell another 21%. North American sales dropped 24%. Revenue fell 23% to $1.33 billion. Operating income declined 39%. In Q2 2025, consolidated operating income fell 53%, and Harley-Davidson Motor Company's operating income alone collapsed 69% in a single quarter. On May 1, 2025, Harley withdrew its full-year financial guidance entirely. The company told investors it could not predict its own performance for the year. And then the full-year 2025 results came in. Consolidated revenue fell 14% to $4.47 billion. The motorcycle division reported a $29 million operating loss. The stock fell 63% from its 2017 peak and was trading at levels last seen during the depths of the pandemic in 2020. A company that cannot predict its own earnings and reports an operating loss from its core business is not managing a cycle, it is managing a crisis. The electric bet that nobody wanted. Harley's answer to its demographic problem was LiveWire, an electric motorcycle brand spun off as a separate public company in 2022 at a valuation of $1.77 billion. The logic was clear. Electric motorcycles would attract younger, environmentally conscious riders who would never be caught dead on a $25,000 chrome cruiser designed to appeal to their parents. And then LiveWire became one of the most spectacular product failures in the history of the motorcycle industry. When the LiveWire motorcycle first launched in 2019, it carried a price of nearly $30,000. It had a range under 100 miles. It made no engine sound. Everything that defined the Harley experience, the rumble, the weight, the theater of it, was absent. Old Harley customers rejected it immediately. They had not bought a Harley because they wanted efficiency. They had bought it for everything LiveWire had just removed. Young buyers rejected it too. At $30,000, the LiveWire cost 6 times what a Honda or Yamaha entry-level bike cost. Tech-savvy younger riders who might have considered electric simply bought a Zero motorcycle instead, at a lower price with better range. In 2024, LiveWire sold 612 motorcycles globally. not 612,000, not 6,120, 612, against original projections of 53,000 units by 2025. That is a 99% miss on a 5-year projection. In Q1 2025, LiveWire sold 33 motorcycles. In a quarter, LiveWire's stock, which began trading at around $10, fell to approximately $1.15. The $1.77 billion valuation had become a cautionary tale about what happens when a brand tries to build a new identity before fixing the one it already has. The operating loss at LiveWire was $110 million in 2024. Projected losses for 2025 were guided at $59 to $69 million. A separate public company burning $100 million a year to sell 600 motorcycles is not a startup finding its footing. It is a liability. The CEO who broke his own promise. At the center of Harley's crisis stood Jochen Zeitz, a German executive who had previously turned Puma around and who took the Harley CEO role in 2020 during the depths of the pandemic. Zeitz introduced the Hardwire strategy, a 5-year plan to double down on Harley's core strength in touring and cruiser motorcycles rather than chasing every market segment at once. In theory, it made sense. Harley's touring market share in the United States had climbed to 74.5% under this approach. The Street Glide and Road Glide delivered nearly 5% growth in the touring segment in 2024. But Zeitz made a promise he could not keep. In a public statement, he said that Harley-Davidson motorcycles sold in America would always be built in America. It was the kind of commitment that Harley's core customer base, proud, patriotic, fiercely loyal to the idea of American manufacturing, needed to hear. Then, in September 2024, while American manufacturing jobs were already under pressure across the Midwest, Harley announced it was moving production of its Pan America adventure bike, the Sportster S, and the Nightster to its factory in Thailand for the 2025 model year. The announcement landed like a grenade in Harley's customer community. Zeitz had moved production of bikes being sold to American customers to an Asian factory. The European Court of Justice had already ruled in November 2024 that a prior Harley production shift to Thailand was motivated primarily by tariff avoidance rather than legitimate economic reasons. The optics were devastating. A major shareholder, H Partners, launched a public proxy campaign in early 2025 titled Free the Eagle. Board member Jared Dourdeville resigned and publicly demanded the removal of Zeitz and 2 long-serving directors. He accused the board of presiding over cultural decline and strategic failure. On April 9, 2025, Zeitz announced his retirement. He was replaced on October 1, 2025 by Artie Starrs, an executive whose previous experience was in entertainment and food, not motorcycles. The symbolism was not lost on Harley's dealer network. The tariff trap. If the Thailand decision was a strategic mistake, the tariff environment that followed turned it into a financial disaster. The Trump administration's tariffs created a trap from which Harley had no clean exit. The company had moved production to Thailand, partly to manage costs. Trump then levied tariffs on Thai-manufactured goods, meaning the cost reduction Harley had sought by moving production offshore was partially eliminated by the tariffs on imports back into the United States. At the same time, the European Union threatened to reinstate 56% retaliatory tariffs on American-made Harleys, a response to U.S. trade policy that would effectively price Harley out of its second-largest market. Europe, where Harley commands genuine aspirational appeal, would become economically inaccessible if 56% tariffs were applied. Tariffs eroded Harley's gross margins by roughly 4 percentage points in 2025. Harley's CFO Jonathan Root testified to Congress about the company being caught in the crossfire of trade policy in a way that was, in his words, untenable. A company whose identity is built entirely on American manufacturing, telling Congress that its business model had become untenable under American trade policy, is a story that goes beyond finance. Harley had spent a century telling its customers it was the embodiment of American freedom. It was now telling lawmakers that American policy was destroying it. The generation that never arrived. Behind every earnings report and every tariff dispute sits the problem that was always going to define Harley's future. The customers who never came. Baby boomers, born between 1946 and 1964, drove Harley's growth for decades. They are now between 60 and 78 years old. The oldest are past typical riding age. The youngest are approaching it. The generation that made Harley a cultural icon is physically aging out of the customer base, and there is no generation behind them ready to take their place. Younger riders want bikes that are fast, technologically advanced, lightweight, and affordable. A 700-pound, $25,000 touring motorcycle with a traditional V-twin engine and classic chrome styling does not describe what a 28-year-old is looking for at a dealership. Triumph, Royal Enfield, KTM, Honda, and Kawasaki have all grown by understanding that the next generation of riders has fundamentally different priorities. Harley's heavyweight market share, once near 30%, had slipped to 27%, even as it dominated the narrowing touring segment. Meanwhile, notable Harley dealerships closed across the United States in 2024, including the Los Angeles Harley-Davidson, the New York City Harley-Davidson, and others. Each dealership closure does not just remove a sales point, it removes a community hub, a gathering place, a physical manifestation of the culture that made Harley what it was. When the culture loses its physical spaces, it stops being a culture and starts being a memory. What comes next? Harley-Davidson is not going out of business. The brand's loyal customer base, however aging, still generates revenue. The financial services division remains profitable. The touring motorcycle segment, where Harley has near total market dominance in America, continues to sell. The company carries $1.93 billion in cash. But cash and a dominant position in a shrinking segment are not a recovery strategy. They are a stay of execution. New CEO Artie Starrs faces a problem that has no fast solution. The demographic cliff is structural and was decades in the making. Livewire has not found an audience and continues to lose money at a rate that cannot be sustained indefinitely. The tariff environment has made international expansion more expensive and less predictable. And the production decisions made under Zeitz have damaged the brand's relationship with the patriotic American manufacturing identity that was always its most powerful sales argument. The most honest assessment of where Harley stands came from the company itself in its May 2025 investor communication, when it withdrew its full-year guidance due to uncertain global tariff and business outlook, especially for discretionary product purchases. A company that cannot see its own year clearly does not have a strategy, it has a hope. The question is not whether Harley-Davidson can survive the next year. The financial cushion makes that nearly certain. The question is what Harley-Davidson is by the time its core customer base has fully aged out. A brand that found the next generation of riders in time, or a brand that spent too long protecting what it had to build what it needed.